unquestionably very, very fast. Man, palm's getting a little sweaty.
Tesla. When you start talking about cars, all your non-enthusiast friends will want to talk about is Elon Musk and his electric car company. And that's okay. If you've never driven a Model 3 Performance, you might be surprised to hear that it's an actual performer. But that doesn't mean it can't be improved. Enter the Unplugged Performance Ascension R.
What does the future of EV tuning look like? Should we just, we're just gonna, why even, right? Let's just, oh yes, sustain G's. Woo! Oh wow, that was 100 miles an hour. Okay, so the Ascension R is a complete package for a Tesla Model 3. You can get bits and pieces of it, or you can get the whole thing. This is the whole thing. It has 417 miles on it, and it is fast. Unplugged Performance redoes the entire chassis of the car. Everything that bolts onto the subframe, pretty much they can change. The regular Model 3 Performance is a pretty incredible machine, and you could even go so far as to call it a driver's car. By steering with one foot and adjusting the regen, you can make it transfer weight however you want in a really, really interesting and totally new way. In the Ascension R package, it's not just a retuning of suspension. They actually widen the front of the car so that this thing runs a 315 tire square. So massive tires at the front. Now, the Model 3 Performance is like a 4,000 pound car. That's pretty heavy, but battery in the floor, very well placed weight. So dynamically, it's very good. With these upgrades, the first thing I'm really noticing is the exceptional body control. Every bump is one down and one up motion. It's definitely less slop than stock. Also, the steering, oh my God, is it ridiculously direct. Very, very sharp. I have to input very little steering here to get it to turn in, and it feels like there's just endless amounts of grip. It's so sharp, in fact, that you have to be careful not to oversteer. You have to pay attention to your corner entry speeds, because it's not like, oh, that's a third gear corner. It's, oh, you have to slow down to 67 or you're going to hit a wall. It feels tight. It feels hunkered down and in control. It feels dynamic and energetic. And one thing I'm not feeling is slop, and one thing I'm not hearing are rattles. With an EV, you have a real problem when you modify it as to not disrupt the NVH. That's the noise, vibration, and harshness. And in an EV, the NVH is already so much lower than a gas car that if you disrupt it, everyone's gonna know. So you can't put in creaky bushings, you can't put in sloppy metal parts. You have to make everything very, very precise. Now, Tesla likes to brag about a full self-driving mode that may or may not ever exist. But in here, we're going to look at some Teslas that are meant for folks that really want to be driving themselves.
There are hundreds, if not thousands, of people who will tune your gas-powered car. The same can't be said for EVs. That's why so many people looking to modify their Teslas are turning to Unplugged Performance.
What is the customer appetite for modifying their EV?
Well, I think there's a lot of people who've gotten a Tesla. They used to own a BMW M car, Mercedes AMG, and they've gone into EVs. It's a great daily driver. It's fun at the track. So I think it's quite a large cross-section of people who are into it.
What you can do to add power beyond what the factory does is limited. So do customers come to you asking, how do I make this go faster? And you explain what handling is, or do they come in asking for that?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if you've driven a Tesla, you know that pretty much point to point on the street, there's nothing that's really gonna be faster. So power is kind of a thing that mostly people who actually don't own the car yet are really concerned with. Once you have the car, for most people, it's all about handling. It's all about the enjoyment, the personalization. The Ascension R kit comes with full aerodynamics, fully tuned suspension, coilovers, arms, brakes, etc. And it can be used primarily as a daily driver, but you can take it to the track, run a really fast lap time, maybe faster than the last track car you owned, and then drive it home and literally either do nothing at all maintenance-wise or just swap from your track day set of tires to your street tires, and that's it.
Talk to me a little more about that. What do you think the scene looks like right now for EVs at a track day?
Well, we put on a track day called Tesla Corsa, so there's pretty good momentum behind it. Charging infrastructure is one of the challenges, but tracks are starting to get with the program. So Buttonwillow is adding a bunch of superchargers in the new track. And as long as you have charging nearby the track, it's great. You just come, you charge, you run. Charging's cheap, charging's fast. It's a great experience compared to, you know, a car that is eating up gallons and gallons of race fuel.
Once you're in the car, on the track and lapping, do you drive differently from if this was a gas car? How do you adjust your style?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of customers have a concern about thermal management on the track. We have some upgrades that help that, but for time attack purpose, you'll definitely get your fastest laps, the first couple laps out. And I guess the drawback is that if you want to do like endurance racing or something, right now EVs are not a great platform for that because they're somewhat limited on thermal, somewhat limited on capacity. Refueling them essentially is slower than you would want. I think it's just one of those things that every year the cars are going to get better in terms of thermal management, in terms of charging speed, and eventually, you'll be able to use them as you would with any gas car.
Right. I mean, yeah, I think obviously I see the benefits of EVs being hill climbs and high altitude.
Yeah, I mean, we did Pikes Peak last year. We're going back this year. I think any kind of EV has a big advantage at altitude. But that said, I think any kind of short distance racing right now, I think EVs are very strong.
A lot of tuners have adversarial relationships with the factory, or maybe they have under the table kind of relationships with the factory. You are like 100 yards up the road from the LA headquarters of Tesla.
Yeah.
So that to me says something.
I mean, the whole reason why we got into this is really because of Tesla. So we are always tuning our GTRs and other sports cars here, and we're in the same parking lot as the Tesla Design Center, and they would always come over and say, hey, why don't you want to do something with Tesla? Are you interested in doing anything? You want to help us with some special projects? And so that's how we ended up getting into it. We ended up buying a Model S in 2013. We kind of saw that as the future. If you compared that car versus the Mercedes or BMW of the day, it was just light years ahead. And then over time, the cars have become more and more appealing to the enthusiast with the introduction of the Model 3, for example. And Tesla's mission is just to transition the world to sustainable energy. So our mission in conjunction with that is just to give the enthusiasts what they want, because Tesla's going to just focus on mass production, getting a car into your hands and my hands and everyone else along the way. So we're basically filling in the gap for the enthusiasts to make the car fun and special to drive.
You mentioned before that the only component that you guys actually change in something that could be considered the drivetrain was the differential coolers, right?
We also have a limited slip diff and some other hard components, but just in terms of cooling, we have these endurance oil coolers that greatly increase the total volume of fluid.
I was like, well, how much difference could this thing make? And then you brought out a stock one. So this is literally like a Fram oil filter painted black with a T on it. And then this is the upgrade. And then the other one is what, the front diff one?
Yeah, correct.
So there's one in the front, one in the back. Mm-hmm. And then we've got suspension components.
Right. So these are adjustable rear camber and tow arms. These are adjustable lower spring bucket, so it allows you to adjust the height of the springs without actually having to swap them if you have any kind of coilover setup. This is a front camber arm, and it has some cool features that adjust camber and tow, but also it has a quick flip pill here. So at the track, you can switch from a street alignment to a track alignment and then back. And that gives you, basically this
better turn in.
Yeah, it gives you better turn in at the track, but also it really allows this kind of daily driver take it to the track, no headache approach that's so great about Tesla.
If you ran the track alignment on the street, would you get real darty steering, and would it be
It won't be darty. No, it'll feel good. You'll just have worse tire wear, and most people want to avoid that. But yeah, you can run a track alignment all day. That's what I do.
And independent reservoir shocks?
Yeah, so we offer like a wide variety of different coilovers, but this is, for example, what we use on the Pikes Peak car. And so this is like a 3-way adjustable damper. You know, we've spent a lot of time and energy making sure that they operate quietly and that they're really set up nicely for a heavy car like a Tesla, because most sort of off-the-shelf stuff that you can find is really set up for your, you know, 3,000-pound Porsche or lighter weight sports car. And so it took a lot of R&D to get this set up for these heavier cars.
The ceramic brake rotor looks familiar.
Standard Brembo rotor basically, and Brembo caliper, and we've done tons of R&D, and if you've seen other Teslas at the track, you've seen other cars running this setup.
How much do you have to love the racetrack to go from just a performance pad and fluid setup to this?
It actually, because of the reduced pad wear of carbon ceramics, it, you know, from a cost perspective, if you do track a lot, it actually comes out pretty affordable.
And then finally, you did say that if you had to upgrade just one thing, lightweight wheels would be it.
A lot of people do wheels. Wheels are one of these beautiful things where there's literally no downside, right? You're saving weight, which helps you at the track, it helps you on the street, it improves the efficiency. So it's a zero downside, all upside. These save about 8 pounds a corner versus the stock wheel, and they're much wider. The stock wheels are only 8.5, these are 10.5.
I could see doing a time attack in this. It totally makes sense. This thing would eat button willow. Unquestionably very, very fast. The kind of speed that you can carry on this hill is Porsche turbo levels of speed. I'm serious. 911 turbo levels of speed is what we're talking about here. Downsides. Yes, there are some. I have only driven this car about 7-8 miles doing this monologue, and I have gone through 40 miles of charge doing it. So obviously performance is the inverse of efficiency and range. And so that is what it is. Also, the wide front tires, they result in some tram lining. This is a very darty kind of condition. You can solve it by just not going quite so wide on the tires, and you'd still have likely a ton of grip. The Model 3 itself is known for poor fit and finish and poor paint quality, and frankly the Ascension R's body kit continues that. Some of the seams aren't great, the paint doesn't quite match. It's in line with Tesla. Look, these EVs, there's still a lot of problems here. The infrastructure's not there, range anxiety is a real thing, and the faster you make them go, the less distance you can cover on one charge. Physics always wins. But as EVs, Tesla and otherwise, become more accepted by the mass market and ingrained into our daily automotive lives, figuring out how to make them faster and more fun is going to be something that everyone's got to get on board with. The most important thing is not looking at Ascension R as what is, but looking at it as what could be. As the mass market catches on, as the other companies come out with their sporting EVs, and as the aftermarket follows suit, EV tuning is the future. It's here to stay. This kind of power delivery is exceptional. Getting these cars to go from efficient commuting machines to track monsters is doable. And frankly, at this pace, how could you not?